Yo, this is a motherfucker who needs no introduction. You are watching Breaking Records Radio.
You are now tuned in to Breaking Records Radio. My name is Alex, and I have here with me an absolute legend, from Grammys and Oscars to battling Eminem in the 1997 Scribble Jam to starring in movies alongside Alec Baldwin. I'm talking, of course, about the man, the myth, the legend, Rhymefest. What's good, my dude?
What's up, bro? What's up? How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling fantastic. Yourself?
Man, I'm feeling great. You know, I really believe this pandemic was a swinging of the pendulum. It was a reset. I mean, some people look at it like we were in isolation, but for a lot of other people, it was solitude. And it was the solitude that was needed to reset goals, to reset spirit, for life, for a shedding, right? Like we shedded a lot of life on earth for new life to come in a whole new way. And bro, not for nothing, we live in the future right now. Like the future that we always imagined back in the day, like this is it, with no flying cars.
100%. Yeah, I've had this conversation with other people as well, and I really feel like people took the pandemic in different ways. You had some people that were burdened by it, and understandably so, and I sympathize with a lot of that. But at the same time, there was people that took it as an opportunity in order to develop and do something productive for themselves. And you see that in different people's responses, even just through social media. And I think one of the things that I'm kind of proud of the artist community and the hip hop community is I feel like overwhelmingly the hip hop community took it as kind of a positive thing. Of course, obviously there's the whole aspect of touring and venues shutting down, and there's economic hardships that go with it. But I see the productivity like full blast when it comes to hip hop artists and just being able to release material, work on things, write books. Talking to Wordsmith, and he said that he ended up writing I think 2 or 3 books throughout this pandemic. That's just a common theme, right? Like people are really taking this time to work on themselves. And I think that happens anytime you end up getting forced kind of solitude, as you said, right? You see people go to prison for an extended period of time, and you can walk out of that being 2 different types of people, right? You see people that work on themselves, let it be kind of developing something, going back to school, even just working on their body and their physique and their wealth and or their health and wellness. It's different types of people take these situations differently, and you see that, but it's a blessing and a curse.
No, well, you can't have flowers without shit. You know what I'm saying? Like shit grows flowers, right? And I truly believe that, we needed something to force us to reimagine. When you talk about hip hop, we needed something to force us to reimagine how to do things. And not only that, to balance the playing field. I mean, shit, if you couldn't get on a Coachella stage or a Lollapalooza stage, or you weren't, blessed enough to be whoever the hell, you know what I'm saying? Like this was the time where a lot of artists who you thought were big, like you saw that they were nothing without the fucking glam, lights, and glitter. And then a lot of artists who had raw talent, you know what I mean, got to really shine with reimagined creativity. So, it's a balancing of the scales, and it hasn't even it won't end. I think this is going to go on for the next 10 years. We're in the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution right now. So, a lot of people that were like, oh, it's the pandemic. We locked up. I got to create. I got to write a record. I got to do this. I got to do that. Nah, bruh. All you had to do was be still and absorb it. Like, if you couldn't absorb this fucking experience, what you're making is the same shit as the past before it.
Yeah, it's there's definitely long-lasting impacts to something like this. I don't think something this impactful in our lives can just go away through a vaccine or through a series of vaccines. It's
the world has changed.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was paying attention to just like finance and economics talks, and you see people talk about recovery stocks generally. And I think different like airplane companies and whatnot, let it be Boeing or in my case like Air Canada and whatnot. These companies, I guess, throughout the pandemic have been talked about as being in kind of this recovery stock position, right? Eventually they'll end up recovering and getting out of this mess. But there's a conversation being had, which is that might not be the case. You have a large kind of pocket of people, at least that take their profit margin anyways, comes from businessmen and people that are doing these trips internationally. And a lot of that has changed. We're having this conversation via Zoom rather than face to face. And that's how this is going to be a long time going forward.
But as you know, I mean, it's not, I mean, you know, yeah, some people that's going to happen, but the economy, I mean, whole new industries are being created. So the marijuana industry is a new industry that we're dipping into.
Yep.
When you look at, you know, I just saw a report today that large numbers of young people and especially African Americans, because of the ease of apps and technology, are now in the stock market. So when you look at Dogecoin, when you look at GameStop, all of this stuff, you know what I mean? There are new methods of gaining wealth today that weren't around before the pandemic. Now that we know that we can work from home, now that people don't have to be stuck in office buildings downtown, what is happening? The housing market, at least in America, is booming. There's not enough houses, you know what I mean, for people who want to buy. So, you know, as one thing goes down, the other thing raises up.
Yeah, interest rates are low, which drives everything up in that department as well. And trading platforms. You have things like Robinhood in the States, Wealthsimple here in Canada. People have access to trading, and it's not as foreign of a concept, I think, to a lot of people and a lot of youth as well, that are kind of coming of age in this kind of era and being introduced to investing. I think is really fascinating. I don't think that happened 50 years ago.
You know, 50 years ago.
10 years ago.
Bro. How many?
10 years ago even, yeah.
When I was in hip hop, well, I'm still in hip hop, but when I had the record deal and I was on J Records, and you know, when we talk about early 2000s, mid 2000s, where the gatekeepers controlled everything and you had millions and millions of dollars flooded into the hip hop industry via Puffy or Hot Boys or Interscope Records, or, I mean, people were doing $10 million videos and craziness, right?
Yeah.
There was not, even though you had concentrated wealth at the top of the chain, there was not as much opportunity for a Rhymefest, a Lil Brother, you know what I'm saying? In terms of like how we could expand our brand, how we could expand, I don't like the word brand because brand is like disingenuous, how we could expand our movements, how we could take money and grow what we were doing. I mean, you have artists today have way more opportunity with less money than we did.
100%.
You know, with Blue Collar Drop.
Yeah, 100%. I want to talk about a lot of kind of your early history, and as a product of that, also kind of learn about some early Chicago hip hop history. Just kind of starting out from the very beginning, I'm interested. Just what was your first introduction to hip hop culture? Not even necessarily involving yourself into it in any real kind of meaningful way, but just from a fan's perspective, how did you get introduced to hip hop? And I guess as a backup question to that, roughly timeline wise, what era are we talking about?
Well, the question becomes, how does an African get introduced to the drum? How does, you know what I'm saying? Like how does it's culture. You know, you grow up in culture. Culture is a part of it's a part of the program of who we are. So with me growing up, you know, hip hop started in New York, but it's the only language in history that is spread as far and as fast as it has. So you can go to Iran or Iraq where they're listening to 18th century Hafiz poetry, but they also know Jay-Z. They also know 50 Cent. I mean, on these world tours I did with Jazzy Jeff, you'd be amazed. Hip hop taught us how to eat, how to dress, how to talk, how to carry ourselves. Somebody could be rapping in a whole nother language and you know what vibration they're coming with, right? Like hip hop, how did you pick up on it? I mean, it's a spirit, bro. It's a spirit. And it's a spirit that embodies the way we celebrate it through the culture. And one day that body will die and it will reemerge. That spirit will reemerge in another body. So I'll give you an example. The spirit of hip hop used to be the spirit of jazz, but it was in a jazz body. That same spirit was in blues, but it was in the blues body. Right now, that same spirit is in hip hop. And it will evolve, and I see it evolve.
Yeah.
Into world music. Now, when you listen to people like Dizzy Rascal, what they're doing, you know what I mean, over in London, you see the body, the spirit entering another body. You know what I'm saying? And hip hop, in its original state, is becoming like jazz. It's becoming antiquity. You know what I mean? Like, so if you can collect things from the 80s, or if you got EPMD's original gold chain or Kanye's original demo tape, like, you have a antique art piece now. Yeah. And so, because the body is starting to get old, you have people doing hip hop that are 60. You know what I mean? They're like, Jay-Z is damn near 60, bro. Like, Bun B is teaching classes at a university, and he's teaching humanities. He's not even teaching art. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like a Ninth Wonder and Nas are in Harvard programs. You know, like, academia needs the elders of hip hop right now. And you see young people evolving it, right? So how did I mean, I'm making a short story long, but how did I get involved in hip hop? It was a part of growing up in the South Side of Chicago. How could you not be involved with hip hop? Unless you were an athlete.
Fair enough. At what point did that spirit hit you, though, I guess, right? I guess is my question.
Oh, well, when the spirit really the spirit is in you, right? But when it really hit me that I could be professional and make money, you know what I'm saying, is when I started entering the rap battle scene. Now, number one, I was entering the rap battle scene because I love what words do. You know, when you spell, when you write, you're spelling. When you speak, you're casting a spell. And I've always looked at writing and speaking as magic. You know what I mean? And I've always and when you could battle that magic against other people's word magic, and people can say violent things to you that don't make you physically act out, but make you think and cast spells to disperse it and attack, like, hey man, it's word chess. And so I got very proficient at word chess. But not only that, we always thought in Chicago that when New Yorkers said, hey, we freestyling, we always thought they meant off the top of the head. We didn't think it meant, oh, this is just a verse that, you know, I might not use again. So we got, you know, me, Juice, Akbar, different artists, we got proficient at rhyming from the top of the head. You know what I'm saying? And when we took that on the road and found out New Yorkers weren't doing that they were actually writing their rhymes, we actually came up with a way of winning every rap battle. So Chicagoans, in my belief, were the best at that time at rap battles because we could use anything in the room to, like, go ahead and make it happen. And that's how I got involved professionally. I started to win contests, make $100 here, $50 there, $3,000, $5,000. And when you're 16 and 17 and you can make a living off using your mind and your words and your gift, how can you never go back?
Yeah, it's empowering.
It's validating. Yeah.
Yeah. You're associated with Scribble Jam, which of course is in Ohio. I guess I want to talk about that local Chicago battle scene. when you're in Chicago before Scribble Jam, so before 1997, 94, 95, 96, when you're practicing and battling kind of locally, where at are these kind of battles even being held?
They happened all over the city. I mean, you had venues like Double Door, Elbow Room, Subterranean, Sub T. You had The Point on the South Side, which the Park District hosted. And you even had Jesse Jackson open up his building at Operation Push. I mean, young people were going in there for Wu-Tang concerts. We never even knew that that was an epicenter of the civil rights movement. We never even knew that that's what, I mean,
Wow.
People that didn't think they liked Jesse Jackson didn't know that his organization was providing safe space on the South Side for us to express ourselves. So there were a lot of venues that were open, you know, for hip hop.
Did you see that at that period of time there was a scene kind of local in Chicago that was developing? I know obviously kind of later on you end up getting artists like Kanye West and DeBrat that end up kind of coming from that space, but they seem to operate on a little bit of a different level than kind of the underground grassroots kind of DIY mentality that seems to operate most underground scenes. Did you feel like there was that kind of underground presence? Because I know Ohio, for example, since we mentioned Scribble Jam, you hear about cats like Blueprint and Illogic and this kind of underground movement that started popping up there. New York obviously has kind of a fundamental underground scene, but the people that generally get spoken of from Chicago end up being these really kind of large kind of names, and you don't really hear about this kind of underground grassroots community. Can you speak about that community?
Oh man, that's a very beautiful question that you asked. Very thoughtful and considerate. Yeah. Well, you know why places like Atlanta are really successful and different places in the South? It's because they felt like they had to fight for their respect. They felt like, I mean, there was this big groundswell of we can rap, you know what I mean? Outkast and T.I. and We Are Here and Killer Mike and Big Crit and David Banner and, you know, Mississippi, shout out. Chicago went through that same thing. Like, we're not getting our respect, you know what I'm saying? But because we are the Midwest, you know, you have people that like West Coast, people that like New York, you know, and although you mentioned Kanye and the Brat, on our underground scene, we had Twista. We had Common. I mean, Common would show up regularly and enter the battles while he had a record out. You know what I mean? And that was big shit for us because it was like, yo, dude could get beat by one of these guys. And at that time, getting beat in a battle, somebody could use that to pump their career up and really like throw dirt on yours, right? At that time. And so, you know, we had big people, and not for nothing, people like Juice and myself, even Lupe, you know, we traveled throughout the country. We were doing battles that KRS-One was judging. I mean, people looked and knew, and we had a place and a space to be in. The Rap Olympics, Wendy Day really helped out a lot from New York with, you know, getting Chicago rappers on. So, you know, the fact that we felt like at that time, we didn't have the respect we deserved, it made us go harder. And we had people to look up to that not only could compete in that circle, but also could compete in the industry and did compete in the industry. So, you know, it was really a beautiful time. I mean, if you didn't want to be involved with the gangs, you didn't want to be, you know, involved with, you know, there were a lot of artists that kind of got deals and pop because drug dealers pay for they shit, you know what I'm saying, and pay for them to get around and all the expense it takes. Well, if you didn't want to deal with that, shit, you could battle your way to the top and get respect and be known. I mean, Kanye and I met because I was on the battle rap scene.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like, so in today's climate, the battle rap scene is very isolated from the rest of, I guess, the culture in many ways.
But the culture is isolated from itself, right? Like, it seems to me that everything you do today in terms of music has a fan base, right? So if you want to
Yeah.
do trap, it's people that like trap, but people that would be like, man, I'd rather listen to, you know what I'm saying, Rhapsody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people that like Rhapsody and Dave East and all that, that has a fan base. If you want to do kitty rap, you know what I'm saying? Like that has its own fan base. You know what I mean? Like Lil Nas X, I consider that kitty rap. And so it's kind of like, you know, what I really like about hip hop today is that it's not a one size fits all. And if the system or the gatekeepers don't accept this, then you don't have a chance. Everyone has a chance. There's an audience for everyone, you know, to me.
Sure. Yeah, there's two ways you can take that, right? So one, hip hop's very diversified at this point, so it's isolated in that sense, and people are doing their own thing, and people kind of stay in their own lane in many ways, right? Even from a fan's perspective, as you mentioned, if you like one thing, you don't really cater to another in most cases. Obviously, there's some overlap, and there's people that have kind of wider tastes, but in the most part, you end up having this isolation that's occurring. But at the same time, I think that isolation in many ways has kind of robbed hip hop of the community aspect of it. Maybe there's multiple kind of factors for that. I think the internet had something to do with it. People were no longer kind of forced to collaborate with their neighbor and instead could reach out by email and collaborate with anybody worldwide. But there is a sense of community that's missing, right? If you end up reading histories of the 90s or the 80s, you end up speaking to people that were around at that period of time. There's a community element to it that I think was really strong. And I think that's what made a lot of people fall in love with hip hop culture. And I feel like that is starting to be missing with that diversity, with that isolation in mind.
Well, you know, to that point, I believe it's because in large parts, there aren't any more fans in hip hop. There are very few fans. Most people see the validation that other people get, and whether they love the music or don't love the music or can't rap, now they want to be involved because they want the validation, and technology makes it easy, right? If I don't like what you're saying to me, block, you know what I mean? Like, so it's also, because of that, there's not as much concentration on the music. It's more like, how can I get attention, right? So it's like more antics than it is good music, because good music is not enough. Music is oversaturated. People's, to your point about technology, people's attention spans are very short. You know what I'm saying? So you'll hear a song for 2 minutes, you're tired. You want to go to the next song, you know? No one's really listening to whole albums. You know, so that changes the dynamic of how artists produce art. And, you know, that is something that is bound to happen with the explosion of technology. However, I don't cater to dumb people. My music is not for those who want it just quick and easy and next. My shit ain't disposable. Like, you have two different types of artists. You have an artist that can make stop signs. People know what to do at a stop sign. You paint that shit, you stop. There's a million of them everywhere. I mean, if you make stop signs, you're in a good business. You'll never go broke. Other artists make Picassos. They might only tell when you're dead.
I like it. Yeah, it's a good metaphor. When you're growing up in Chicago in the 90s and kind of being involved in that hip hop community that we talked about, did you feel that the kind of battle rap sphere was isolated from the rest, let it be from the b-boys or the graffiti artists or the, I guess, more, let's say, traditional MCs that are crafting albums and working in the studio? Did you feel like you were inhabiting a different space in the city?
No, because when you're talking about b-boys, Shyrock, and like, you know, all the b-boys that crews I used to hang with, when you're talking about graffiti, DJing, that was the essence of where battle rap lived at. I mean, because what are b-boys doing? They're battling each other. Yeah. What are people that tag? What are they doing? They're competing. DJs competing. Rap competing. So that was the one place where you could find hip hop all in sync together. when you start talking about record labels, industries, selling records, now they want to separate the DJ from the rapper because the artist is his own. It's not DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince or Eric B and Rakim. Now when I'm coming up, it's Tupac. It's Biggie Smalls. It's not Leader of the New Schools. Groups start breaking up. And it's Busta Rhymes only. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, the pouring of money and industry into hip hop actually separated the family.
I study hip hop in Canada, and one of the things that I end up realizing is during, again, this same sort of era, what you end up seeing is these large collectives or crews that inhabit all kind of platforms or elements of hip hop. You see a crew like QC out of British Columbia, and that even spread down to like Seattle and a little bit of like San Diego and whatnot. But the roster in it is huge, and you can't even put a number on it. And 50, 60 people kind of inhabit one crew, and there's everyone, every type of person is involved, right? You have people that are just kind of always there and not even necessarily participating in a real kind of active way, but they're always there. They're always showing love, and they're a part of that community. So they get a spot in that collective or that roster. They get to represent that name. You see your b-boys, your graffiti artists, your MCs. Everyone's kind of coming together under one brand, and it ends up being kind of this larger collective or family. Did you have those kind of experiences in Chicago? Were there these larger collectives that housed various elements? That they had a b-boy division, they had an MC division, they have kind of different, they had a eclectic makeup, I guess. Was that the case in Chicago?
Of course. We had crews like Ill State Assassins. Hello?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm here.
I think I messed up the visual. Okay.
I'm
you
here.
Had crews like Ill State Assassins. You had all kinds of crews. Even Kanye's crew that we were in was me, Mickey Halstead, Mickey Halstead, GLC, Really Though, a couple other people, Infamous Syndicate, Gravity. We were Chicago outfit, you know what I'm saying? And Kanye, it was a Chicago outfit. And you know, even the people who you say didn't do much, like the ones that seem to just be there, they had a purpose. Like this, again, hip hop is a spirit. It's a spirit that's embodying in the form of hip hop. And those people that didn't look like they did much, they might be the people that's, hey, when you go out, those are the goons. Those are the ones watching your six, you know, from the other crews. Or when we're creating, those are the guys we bouncing ideas off of. They might have one word like, oh, why don't you say such and such? You know what I'm saying? And we like, oh, and it opens the whole chorus up. Or you know, those are the people that keep you grounded as an artist. And I really believe that, like, when artists, especially when artists are hanging around and clicking up with other artists, we need people that are not artists to help ground us and keep us in sync.
100%. There's so much more to talk about here, and I could talk about this stuff all day, go Chicago outfit and kind of break down that history. But I do kind of want to wrap things up. But what are you currently working on? What's currently on your kind of plate for 2021 at the very least?
Oh, man. I'm so happy you asked. You know, I'm doing right now, like I don't like to say I view myself as anything because I'm really trying to release self-identity. But if I would describe myself, I pray to be a humanitarian. And in that, we're on our way to a country called Mauritania in sub-Saharan Africa, where slavery still exists. It got outlawed in 2010 by the government, but it still exists. Wow. And we're going to work, I work with a organization called the Abolition Institute. And we're on our way, and I'm going to be doing music with some people who have been emancipated from that system to work with other people who are still in that system of slavery. And in Mauritania, slavery is like what America was 400 years ago, where the white Arabs enslaved the Black Africans. And so I believe, and I work with a group of musicians who believe that we can make music so powerful, we can break institutions. We can make music so powerful, we can make soldiers drop guns from their hands from the vibration. So we're going to be next month in Mauritania putting together my man John Trax, Tammy McCann, who's a great jazz singer from Chicago. We're going to be making music with the indigenous in West Africa. And then we're going to be shooting some videos in Senegal. And so I'm really excited about global music collaborations with hip hop and Africana.
That's fascinating. You mentioned it was outlawed in the region that you're speaking of in 2010. At that period of time when it gets outlawed, what was the climate like? Was it frowned upon at the very least, and something that was kind of hidden and kept away? Or
it's more hidden now, because internationally it doesn't look good when that's a government policy. I mean, This is in sub-Saharan desert, you know what I mean? Like, we forget sometimes that when we travel in different places, it's not Western civilization, so all of the rules we believe should apply don't apply, you know what I mean? And it's okay, but you know, we want to spread a message of humanity, love, and family. One race, one tribe, you know, not like all of this fracturing and division. And so I look forward to this.
I look forward to it as well. I've been a fan of yours for quite some time. I own the albums there behind me that you've put out at the very least. And I'm looking forward to any kind of new Rhymefest material.
So we got you know, that EP is coming. I'm working on another album, but you know, the album is done. Love Lessons, actually, well, I don't have the shirt on. But, you know, Love Lessons is my solo album that I'm working on. That should be coming in the beginning of next year. I'm actually, to your point about Wordsworth, I'm finishing a book. And this book that I'm writing is about, you know, my relationship with Kanye, with Fonte, some things I went through with Fonte from Little Brother. It's about how Black Thought, experiences I had that grew me from conversations with Black Thought, the pain of divorce in hip hop and as a man, and about traveling the world with Jazzy Jeff and how I believe he's a shaman. Jazzy Jeff is one of the best teachers I've ever had in my life. He's a beautiful man. And some of the things he taught me just by taking me on the road, I had to jot down in the book. So the book is coming with the album. Love Lessons album is done. I'm just finishing the book.
That's amazing. I can't wait to read it. Speaking of some of the kind of connections in your stories, I'm not sure if it's going to be in the book or not, but there was a recent photo that Masta Ace ended up posting with yourself. I was just wondering if you had a kind of a history with Masta Ace.
That was the first time I ever met Masta Ace. You know, let me explain that to you.
Sure.
Masta Ace is into bike riding. Like, I saw him out there, like, riding his bicycle, getting in shape. And when I saw that, and when I saw him add hip hop to it, I was like, yo, this is a movement. I was like, yo, this is what we need right now. Like, coming out of the pandemic, really like focusing on holistic health. And so I wrote him and I told him I thought it was beautiful. And I found a bicycle group in Chicago. I'm actually meeting with them tonight. I found a bicycling group in Chicago and I started riding with them. And I just kept thinking about how much of a fan I am of Masta Ace. I kept thinking about how he's
perfect
a god.
Perfect MC.
Like, perfect, right? Storytelling, voice, like, he doesn't put too much on it. And
he's just talking to you. It's a rare gift.
To you.
It's a very rare gift. There's not very many.
His songs are like great conversation.
You know that feeling you get when you're in the mid conversation, you happen to say something that rhymes, and there's a feeling to that. It's like, oh shit, that sounds dope. It like, if somebody is able to write in a way that sounds like they're just having a conversation with you and everything just happens to rhyme and it kind of gives you that excitement at the end of every line. I think that's a like supreme talent. And I think Masta Ace has mastered that.
bro. When it happens to rhyme, and this is a time, and me and Masta Ace, you can see us in our prime. Yo, we doing Zoom, man. It's all online, but it's still authentic because you know that I couldn't think of nothing else. But yeah, when that happens, you know,
so
it's greatness. But like,
yeah.
so I said, yo, I have to meet Masta Ace. And I DM'd him, and I said, I'm coming to New York, and I'd like to take you and your wife to dinner. And that's what we did. New York for a day to have dinner with Masta Ace.
Oh man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come on here and speak to me here today. I'd love to have you back on in the future whenever new projects do end up developing, be able to speak about those in more depth. Where can people find you and stay up to date with the material that you're coming out with?
Thank you very much for asking. People can go to, it's simple, at Rhymefest, Instagram or Twitter. I'm just, basically doing that. But I'm not, you said, am I working on new stuff? I really don't like the idea of work. I don't like the idea of rush. I don't like the idea of, I got to put some music out. You know what I'm saying? Like, for the last few years,
I've been creative.
Really
You just want to be creative and be in that space.
Bro, I'm living art.
Yeah.
I'm living art. And music is a natural outgrowth of that. And so the music has been being made, and it's on the way, but I'd rather it be quality than quantity.
Fair enough. Man, again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Like I said, we'll have to have you back on in the future.
Yo, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And yo, have a great day.